From mole, ground with a traditional tool in Mexico, to metal art forged with ancient wax casting techniques in India, and shea butter made by women artisans in Ghana. We got an inside look at businesses around the globe to see how their centuries-old traditions are still standing. This is camel skin. It takes at least 2 days to manually clean it, so it can be turned into pieces of art like this lamp. This century-old craft is a signature trade in the ancient city of Multan in Pakistan. And this is one of the last businesses that still make them. Malik Abdul Rahman Nakash is proud to keep it going.
ये फन मुझे विरसे में मिला है। ये नहीं, ये हमारे सीना बसीना सिलसिला है जो खानदान में चला आ रहा है।
In fact, his grandfather started making camel skin lamps in the early 20th century and is credited for turning it into a major business for this city. But younger generations aren't interested in learning the craft, and businesses have been closing. So, what does it take to make these lamps, and how is this craft still standing? Cleaning and preparing the hides properly is crucial. It takes hours of manual work using only this knife called rambi.
हमारे काम इसलिए आती है, इसके अंदर चिकनाई कम होती है, इसकी थिकनेस जो है वो काफ़ी मोटी होती है, जिससे हमारे पीसेस ज़्यादा निकलते हैं.
These skills are passed down within families. Ashfaq Riaz learned it from his father Muhammad when he was 7. Nowadays, they work side by side. While one cleans the hides until they're bleached white, the other scrapes the excess until it's nearly paper thin.
ये हमें फ़ख्र महसूस होता है क्योंकि ये आर्ट है और एक ये फ़न है जो पूरी दुनिया में कहीं नहीं होता. ये हम ही जानते हैं, ये हमारा ही ख़ानदान का काम है, इसलिए करते हैं.
They save as much excess skin as they can.
चमड़े की सिलाई करने के बाद जब छोटे-छोटे पीसेस बच जाते हैं चमड़े के, उसको हम ये कीमे वाली मशीन में निकालते हैं 5 दफ़ा.
Then it's time to shape the lamps. Muhammad places the thin layers over these clay molds. Today, he's working with a classic lamp shape. He uses the grinded excess to cover holes. It's important to keep the top layer thin so light can pass through the final product. He gets these molds from a potter who makes them by hand using plaster. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Muhammad seals the piece with a mixture made of glue and washing soda and leaves it to dry in the sun for up to 4 days.
खुश्क होने के बाद ये इस तरह के यानी कि कलर इसका ये येलो कलर का हो जाता है जब सूखने के बाद. उसके बाद हम इसको फिर जो है ना इसको मिट्टी निकालने के लिए हम इसको तोड़ते हैं.
Finally, it's time to paint it. It takes around 10 days to finish a single lamp. And Malik has to be precise and patient, since one mistake can ruin the entire design.
कलर स्कीम, डिज़ाइन की वंड, और आप इसमें देखें कि जो नक्काशी हमने ख़ास तौर पे इलाकाई नक्काशी को हमने ज़िंदा रखना होता है जो सीना बसीना चली आ रही है. उसमें यहाँ के मुल्तान के फूल हो गए, मुल्तान की सब्ज़ियाँ हो गई, ये हमारे पैटर्न का ख़ास हिस्सा है.
This technique is called nakashi, and it's over 900 years old. Artists from Multan painted designs like these on buildings, monuments, and mosques. Malik learned the technique from his father.
ये उन्हीं की मेहनत है जो आज मैं काम इतना अच्छा कर रहा हूँ.
In the past, camel leather was popular in the region for storing oil and ghee. Malik's grandfather started doing nakashi art on camel skin lamps in 1910, following the arrival of electricity in South Asia. And he passed the skill down to his son, Malik Ashik Nakash. At one point, there were at least 40 families involved in this business. and people from across the country came to Multan to buy these. But the craft has dwindled as tourism declined in Pakistan in recent decades, and raw materials have gotten more expensive.
बहुत मुश्किल हालात हैं महंगाई की वजह से.
Malik started selling them online and managed to keep the business running. Small lamps sell for about 1,500 rupees or $7, larger ones for around $200. He says these lamps can last up to 100 years, but they need to varnish each one thoroughly to get them there. This increases its shine and durability. Both Malik and Ashfaq say that younger generations aren't entering this business and instead choosing more profitable careers. They hope with educational programs and monetary support, a new generation will join the craft.
जो सबसे अहम मुश्किलात आ रही हैं वो कि नए बच्चे इस तरफ नहीं आ रहे, तो उसके लिए हम चाह रहे हैं कि इसके लिए कोई नर्सरी तैयार हो ताकि नए बच्चे इस फील्ड में आएं.
For now, he's passing the nakashi skill down to his son.
मेरा बेटा जो है वो इस पे स्टडी के साथ साथ मेरे साथ भी होता है. जैसे मैं वालिद के साथ था, मेरे वालिद अपने दादा के साथ थे, वालिद के साथ थे, तो ये सिलसिला जारी रहेगा इंशाल्लाह.
Women in West Africa have been turning shea nuts into butter for centuries. The process is hard, requiring at least 3 women to mix 1 pot. The yellow paste is often called women's gold, and for many in northern Ghana, it's the only source of income.
We don't have anything to do. That's why we are doing the Shea Butter.
People across Africa have used it for skin and hair care, food and medicine for at least 700 years. And in recent decades, it's become a global sensation. International customers often buy larger quantities from companies that can produce it faster, making it harder for traditional farmers. But the biggest threat is right in their backyard. For the past 4 decades, men have been cutting down the very tree that provides livelihood to many families. We traveled to Ghana to find out how, despite the challenges, this group of women artisans is still standing. The day starts with a 2-hour trek to the forest for many women in the town of Yinduri. The journey can be dangerous. They have to travel in groups to avoid armed robbers lurking in the forest. And they risk getting bitten by snakes when walking through the grass.
If you are only 1 or 2 women that goes into the bush to pick, it's likely that you won't come back.
The shea tree grows along a dry savanna belt that stretches from east to West Africa. Only the ripe shea nuts that have fallen from the tree are ready. The return home can also be physically taxing. The women carry more than 25 kilograms of seeds on their heads. They first wash the seeds and let them dry for a week. Then it's time for cracking. The nuts are ready when the kernel starts to rattle against the shell. Only the good ones are made into butter. The bad nuts are used to make a special food called Khon and as a fertilizer on their farms. This attention to detail sets traditional shea butter apart from commercially made ones.
With the machinery, you pour everything in the machine. So if there's bad one, you will not be able to identify it.
Portia Asumda has led an organization called Titiaka Boresa for the last 3 years. The group provides cooking pots and training for shea farmers in the Talensi district. It also teaches them how to pick the best quality nuts for their product. They crack the nuts into smaller pieces with a brick. Then roast them over an open fire until they become fragrant. This helps release the oils that give shea butter its nutty taste and smell. It's one of the skills Acuna Alejere is teaching her daughter. She's been making shea butter for more than half her life. She grinds the shea nut pieces by hand. Some shea farmers have invested in grinding mills to make this step easier. But Acuna takes pride in sticking to the techniques that date back to the 14th century. The divots in these rocks provide the perfect working space. The women only produce small batches at a time to ensure the quality will be consistent. It's all hands on deck when it comes to mixing the shea paste. The work can be grueling and takes a lot of strength. They do this for 1 hour to get the right consistency. The water activates the butter. Slowly, it separates and floats to the top. Acuna melts the butter in another fire, using wood that was harvested in the forest. She waits until it turns a deep chocolate color. The shea oil will cool and be sold as unrefined butter. The first accounts of shea butter use date back to 14th century Burkina Faso. It's been used in West African households as a cooking fat and as a moisturizing salve for skin. Legend has it that even the Egyptian Queen Cleopatra appreciated the butter for its hydrating power. In recent decades, global demand for shea butter has increased dramatically. Its healing properties and high levels of vitamins have made it the ultimate ingredient for skincare products across the world. In the last 20 years alone, annual exports have increased 600%. But with new demand have come new challenges. Deforestation, competition from bigger companies, and a global pandemic have threatened the livelihoods of small-scale shea farmers.
We used to get supplies from other countries like Canada, US, UK. But when COVID-19 came, we never had orders again.
Faster, machine-run shea processing plants in Ghana have also begun taking over the market, making it difficult for this group of women to keep up. It takes them an entire month to produce what a big factory can do in 3 days. Deforestation is also an ongoing battle. Since the 1990s, men have been cutting down shea nut trees to make charcoal for commercial use. Around 8 million trees are cut each year.
The quantity we used to get, now we don't get it that way again. It has reduced drastically.
Shea butter making has sustained generations of women in Ghana. Today, many depend on it as their only source of income.
Mostly with this group, most of them are widows. They used to say widows, they can't do anything for their own. But now that they have their own handwork, they are able to do something and earn money and take home.
Organizations like Portia's teach traditional shea farmers how to produce better quality butter and understand its value in the local market. With this knowledge, they can take home a higher profit from their sales. The organization is also working to combat deforestation. Over the last 2 years, it's planted 7,000 shea trees in hopes of repopulating the parklands. Although there are many challenges, Portia sees a bright future ahead.
That is our business. That is what we do. Even though it is hard to produce it, but that is where we get our money from. That is where we get our income.
young women are still interested in learning the craft. And she hopes that expanding her business will give more opportunities to people looking to learn the skill in its traditional form.
We like to have our own plantations. We like to have our own warehouses where we can keep our shea nuts there.
For women here, shea butter is a symbol of prosperity and independence. And they're determined to pass it on to the younger generation.
Strip away the surface of these shells and you reveal a shiny layer called mother of pearl. And in Thailand, it's been used to make ornaments that decorate palaces and temples for over 7 centuries. It can take half a year and as many as 20,000 pieces to complete one inlay. At 57, Jukit Suksawat is one of the last craftsmen preserving this traditional art.
ก็คือมันเป็นสิ่งที่มันเป็นการสืบทอดอาชีพของบรรพบุรุษบรรพชนไทยเป็นงานของไทยแท้ๆเลยซึ่งเรามีประวัติอันยาวนาน
But the craft almost disappeared during the Burmese-Siamese War in the 18th century. So what makes mother of pearl unique? And how is this centuries-old craft still standing? Rattan is the base of every inlay. It is light and easy to shape.
When I work about my arts and I like to create in the peaceful place. When I have something serious, I looking around the nature. That could help me.
Jukit used to be a rice farmer, but today he finds inspiration in the nature that surrounds his quiet workshop in Bua Pak Tha.
ผมได้รับแรงบันดาลใจจากดอกไม้ก็คือดอกบัวเป็นดอกบัวที่ขึ้นอยู่ในสระข้างบ้านผม
Working with the shells poses the biggest challenges. It can take 30 minutes to clean and smooth the rough surface of one shell and reach the mother of pearl. Jukit uses the shells of turban snails, but it's not always easy to get a hold of them, so he buys them from India and Indonesia. 1 kilogram of shells can cost as much as 1,700 Thai baht, or about $50.
คือเราปัจจุบันนี้มันจะหายากมากขึ้นทุกวันแล้วก็ราคาค่อนข้างสูงเป็นตัวแปรสำคัญทำให้ปัจจุบันเนี่ยช่างมุกส่วนใหญ่แล้วจะปรับเปลี่ยนไปใช้หอยตัวอื่นที่มีราคาถูกลงมันก็ส่งถึงคุณค่าของงานก็จะลดลงแต่ตัวผมเองก็ยังคงใช้ตัวนี้อยู่นะครับ
He says these last longer and hide a stunning surface inside.
ตรงนี้เรามีเพราะว่าหอยมุกไฟเนี่ยมีสีสันที่โดดเด่นสวยงามมีเหลือบประกายลุ้ง
He's careful to shape the shells without damaging them. This task can be dangerous, but Jukit is used to it after doing it for 30 years. Then it's time to carve it into shape. It can take over 6 hours to carve these designs on the mother of pearl. But Jukit doesn't mind the work. Even when he worked in the rice fields, he says he was always interested in art.
ทางผมควงคู่ไปอนุรักษ์แล้วก็ได้เงินเป็นรางวัลตอบแทนกลับมา
Nowadays, he enjoys carving in solitude.
ถ้าเป็นงานที่ใช้เครื่องจักรเข้ามาช่วยเนี่ยงานอาจจะไม่มีความวิจิตรประณีตนะครับเท่างานที่เราทำมือเหมือนเราได้ตรวจเราได้ตรวจทานเช็คทุกขั้นตอนทุกวินาทีเวลาเราทำงานก่อนที่เราจะปล่อยไปสู่มือลูกค้า
He cuts 213 pieces for this design and places them one by one on the sketch. This black mixture will serve as the glue. And Jukit makes it himself, combining the sap from the lacquer tree with burned banana leaves.
This technique is traditional. What I learned.
He makes sure the charcoal from the banana leaves is jet black, then finely pounds it with a stone mortar and pestle. Then he filters the liquid with a thin white cloth to remove impurities. The sap contains toxic oils that can cause allergic reactions, so Jukit wears gloves to protect his skin. He covers the whole design with a thin layer of the paste.
รอเพราะว่าปัจจัยการทำงานในบางกระบวนการเช่นยางรักเนี่ยต้องใช้อุณหภูมิอากาศในการที่เขาจะแห้งพอจะขัดได้แต่ละชั้นพอจะสำเร็จได้แต่ละขั้นตอนต้องใช้เวลาในการทำงาน
With wet, soft sandpaper, he cleans the excess lacquer off the mother of pearl. He will polish and recoat it multiple times until the lacquer and mother of pearl pieces are leveled to a smooth surface. The final touch is a layer of oil that adds a glossy look. Art that combined lacquer and mother of pearl thrived in Thailand during the Ayutthaya period, between the 14th and 18th centuries. Buddhist temples like the Wat Boram Butharam had mother of pearl door panels. The temple was destroyed when the Burmese attacked the ancient capital of Thailand in 1767. Some doors and inlays were saved. And in 2007, Princess Maha Chakri Sirindhorn assigned a group of artists to make new ones for the Temple of the Emerald Buddha Scripture Hall. Jukit says he was one of those artisans. Today, he's one of the last in Thailand focusing on mother of pearl conservation.
คือผมมีความรู้สึกผมภาคภูมิใจก่อนข้างในคือเราภาคภูมิใจเรา
It takes him 1 month to finish a small piece. Larger ones can take 6 months to a year and can cost more than $2,000. He sells them mainly through custom orders. This ancient technique is time-consuming and labor-intensive, and younger generations are not interested in the craft. But Jukit is teaching the art to his nephew.
ที่ช่างที่จะทำงานตรงนี้ได้ก็คือเราต้องมีความเชื่อความศรัทธาว่าสิ่งที่เราทำไปแล้วเนี่ยมันเป็นบุญมันเป็นกู๊ดกรรมมาคือเราทำแล้วเรารู้สึกเราภาคภูมิใจ
It takes nearly a week to make one Dhokra statue. Artisans build the mold from mud and spend hours handcrafting the intricate details using strings of beeswax. Eventually, all of this will be lost to make way for metal. Tribes in India have practiced this art for 4,500 years. Rajendra was just 10 years old when he started learning the craft.
वो चीज़ अगर कोई खरीद ले तो उसके लिए एक सोने पे सुहागा वाला सोना का चीज़ कोई खरीद लिया.
But many artisans were forced to quit when India rolled out a controversial economic reform that threatened their livelihoods.
तो कोरोना में फिर हमारे जो कौम के लोगों के पास में और कोई दूसरा व्यवसाय नहीं है.
Now, many are searching for more sustainable careers. We traveled to Chhattisgarh in India to see how this centuries-old tradition is still standing. Dhokra art is more than a job for Rajendra, it's a passion. And his workshop has been a staple in the town of Kondagao for over 10 years. He starts each day by mixing rice husk with black soil to make the clay. This blend keeps the model from cracking.
तो वो ये ढोकरा का काम में कई बार उन्होंने हमारे प्रोजेक्ट बना के फिर उसको देखे होंगे तब जाके वो मिट्टी लोगों का चयन किए. देखिए पूरा काम हाथ से होता है और धीरे-धीरे होता है।
He leaves it to dry in the sun for 2 days. This layer of wet riverbed soil helps smooth out any bumps. Then it's time to prepare the wax. Rajendra uses beeswax because it's strong and allows him to create intricate designs. He melts and strains it into cold water. The linen cloth catches impurities like bee wings. The fire makes the wax more pliable and easier to shape into logs. Rajendra adds it to this pressing machine he inherited from his grandfather. The press stretches the wax into meter-long strings. This was once done completely by hand. Some other communities still use that method, but it takes a lot of time.
एक अगर धागा 1 मीटर का धागा निकालना है तो कम से कम 15 मिनट 20 मिनट लगेगा।
Rajendra prepares the model for the wax, smoothing the surface with a file and rubbing it with a bean leaf.
रेत को हटाने के लिए वो पॉलिश का इस्तेमाल करते हैं जो सेम का पत्ती है।
Slowly, he wraps the strings around the model to bring his ideas to life. The design he makes with the wax is printed on the wet soil underneath. He has to be careful not to leave gaps between the strings.
धीरे से धीरे करके तो वो धागा टूटना नहीं चाहिए और जुड़ना नहीं चाहिए।
Designing is Rajendra's favorite part of the process. It took him years to master, and precision is key here. He can spend a full day working on just one sculpture. He comes up with his designs on a whim and improvises as he goes.
अच्छा लगता है मतलब कि वो काम करूं तो उसका वो ओके उसको वो जो भाव उस मूर्ति के अंदर लाना पड़ता है। हाथ से परफेक्ट नहीं होगा, सब चीज़ का सब प्रकार थोड़ा ना थोड़ा सब जगह डिफरेंस होगा। ढोकरा का खासियत वही है।
Most Dhokra sculptures depict animals and deities from tribal folklore.
ये पहला स्टेप तैयार हो गया, ऐसा ये नंदी तैयार हो जाता है। जैसे नंदी का पहला स्टेप हो गया।
Nandi is a sacred bull in Hindu culture and one of Rajendra's most popular designs. Many believe it brings peace and prosperity into the home. Rajendra has made hundreds of these sculptures over the years. He covers the model in another layer of soil. This method of creating 2 layers on both sides of the wax is called hollow casting. Rajendra makes 2 holes at the base that will allow the wax to melt and make way for the molten metal. He covers the model in another layer of termite soil and creates a funnel around the wax strip.
उस पाइप में पिघली हुई पीतल उसमें डाल देंगे तो जैसा जैसा मोम का अंदर बना हुआ है वैसा वैसा पीतल का रूप ले लेगा।
Rajendra starts a fire in this brick furnace and uses wood from a forest nearby. He monitors the temperature throughout, keeping it at around 1300 degrees. The model sits in the fire for 2 hours until all of the wax melts away. If it's too hot, the model will crack and spoil.
वो लाल होते जाएगा, पूरी लाल ईंट के सरीख लाल दिखेगा और मेटल पूरा मेल्ट हो जाएगा तो हम लोगों को पता लग जाता है कि पक गया।
Rajendra removes it from the furnace with a metal rod.
तो हाथ बैठ जाता है। जब वो मॉडल को अपन लोहे के संसी से जब पकड़ते हैं तो वो अंडा की सरीख वो रहता है, लेकिन अपने को संसी कहाँ पकड़ना है किस जगह में तो वो पूरा काम मैनेजमेंट होता है।
He melts pieces of scrap metal, including utensils and old machine parts. Then he pours the molten mix into the channel and waits for it to cool down. Dhokra art gets its name from the Dhokra Damar, the nomadic tribe that popularized the craft across the country. Legend has it, the tribe went from village to village selling the metal figurines of Hindu gods and goddesses in exchange for food. The art form continued to thrive into the 2000s. But that all changed in 2016, when India demonetized much of its currency in an effort to weed out illegal money and counterfeit bills. Overnight, almost 90% of the cash in circulation was made worthless. Many customers stopped buying Dhokra art to save money. It took the Indian government 8 months to replace the bills in remote areas of Chhattisgarh. By the time it did, many Dhokra artists who depended on cash sales had to quit the craft to make a living.
भाई हमारे पास बजट नहीं है, पैसा है ही नहीं, मार्केट में पैसा है ही नहीं, ऐसा करके.
While Dhokra is still popular, many artisans are still struggling. So Rajendra recognizes the importance of his work every time he breaks a mold and reveals his newest creations.
ये सही सलामत बनेगा क्योंकि जैसे माँ का कोख में बच्चा रहता है वैसी है कि जब तक बाहर नहीं निकलेगा तब तक हमको मालूम नहीं रहता है कि पूरा बन गया कि खराब हो गया.
The rising cost of raw materials is forcing them to sell their sculptures at higher prices. The number of artisans working in the trade has dropped by nearly a third in the last 3 decades.
कि अब ये काम नहीं चलेगा, कौन खरीदेगा, ये तो कोई खाने पीने का चीज़ नहीं है, एक बार बन गया तो 100 साल तक चल रहा है, तो कहाँ से चलेगा. ऐसा भी कई हमारे शिल्पियों का मन में आता है भावना, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है.
But it's not just about the money for Rajendra. His uncle Jaidev Baghel was recognized as a master Dhokra craftsman by the Indian government and even earned a statue in Khon for his work.
वो सारे काम को वो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मार्केट तक पहुंचा चुके हैं.
Now, Rajendra is continuing his legacy. He's trained over 200 people and helps them sell their work. Despite the hardships, he's managed to keep his business afloat. He sells mainly in government-funded showrooms and makes around 40,000 rupees or $500 a month. He's shown his work in exhibits across India and has won 2 national awards.
तो इस काम को पकड़ के किया तो वो मैं उस राष्ट्रपति के साथ खाना खाया, प्रधानमंत्री के साथ खाना खाया, बैठा, घूमा, देश दुनिया में गया, तो जो चीज़ मेरे को मिला तो वो चीज़ मेरे पूर्वज की देन है.
But that's not the reality for most small-scale artisans who make around 7,000 rupees a month, less than half the monthly average for most workers. And many Dhokra-making families are encouraging their kids to work different jobs.
इसमें लोग अभी भी हारने की कोशिश में हैं, लोग डर रहे हैं अभी.
Rajendra believes his traditions molded him, and he wants to do the same for future generations.
अभी तो हम लोग एक सिटी भर जगह में तक हमारा सामान नहीं पहुंचेगा. हम तो एक छोटे से गांव में 100 लोग हैं. मेरे ढोकरा का आर्ट तो एक तो मेरा खानदानी काम है, मेरे लिए तो बहुत गर्व का बात है. फिर मैं पढ़ा लिखा नहीं हूँ तो मेरे लाइफ के लिए तो बहुत बड़ा महत्व है कि मैं ढोकरा आर्ट ही करता रहूँगा और करता ही चला रहूँगा और आगे बढ़ाऊँगा इसको.
Weaving threads of silk from cocoons is a tradition that goes back more than 1,000 years in Cambodia. But about 50 years ago, it almost disappeared. A brutal regime killed and tortured intellectuals, including artisans who specialised in this craft.
ក្នុងការសង្គ្រាមហ្នឹងគឺបាត់បង់ច្រើនណាស់យើងអត់មានមនុស្សនិយាយទៅអ្នកគេធ្លាប់ត្បាញ
Sorpe who goes by PH, made it her mission to revive silkworm farming and Cambodian weaving. She has spent 20 years teaching people how to raise worms and turn their silk into textiles, using an ancient technique called ikat.
គេហៅថា tune in honor to our ancestors.
We visited PH's silk farm and boutique in Siem Reap to see how a new generation ensures this ancient craft is still standing. Making silk starts from the ground up. Farmers plant fields of mulberry trees for golden silkworms to feast on. This was once a popular tree across Cambodia, but most were torn out by the Khmer Rouge in the 1970s to make way for rice plantations. The country's famous golden silkworms lost their habitat and they nearly died out.
Daily life គឺយើងខំទៅធ្វើប្រឹងធ្វើឲ្យយល់ក្នុងការហៅសកម្មភាពរបស់សូត្រតកៅនាងនឹង
Once the leaves are harvested, workers transfer them to breeding sheds. Silkworms feast on shredded leaves for 12 days before they can eat a whole one. It is important to keep this space clean.
ព្រោះថាពេលគេញ៉ាំគេបាត់ជើងនៅហ្នឹងគេជុះនៅហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងសុកយើងក្តៅបើយើងទុកនៅក្នុងប្រអប់ហ្នឹងវាធ្វើឲ្យតកៅហ្នឹងវាមានជំងឺ
After 25 days, they turn yellow and are ready to spin. Workers hang them on this structure that allows airflow. It takes about 4 days for the worms to build their yellow cocoons. The best ones go to a breeding area, and the rest of the cocoons will become silk. Workers drop them in boiling water to release the fibres. They use a spatula to catch them, then insert them into the spindle. They reel out the silk slowly in one continuous motion so it doesn't break. The outer part of the thread is rough, like horsehair, and they use it for cheaper scarves. Artisans scrape it off to reach the inner layer and make sure the threads are even. This is the best part of the silk and what they need for their ikat textiles. They wash, stretch and soften the yarn by hand and hang it to dry. Designing and weaving just one 2-meter piece of fabric can take 3 years.
របស់នេះមិនងាយនឹងមានអ្នកណាធ្វើបានទេតែអ្នកដែលហៅថាគុំស្មុកស្មាញក្នុងចិត្តណាបានអាចធ្វើទៅបាន
Thin AM, who goes by Crumb, was an orphan when she started working here 18 years ago. Today, she has mastered every step.
ព្រោះរបស់នេះគឺជារបស់ពិសេសរបស់ស្ដេចព្រោះมันអាចមានមិនងាយនឹងមានអ្នកណានឹងធ្វើបានទេនោះ
She says the hardest part is the tie-dyeing technique.
តសូនអត់ចេះអីទាំងអស់ពេលដែលយើងរៀនចេះតែយល់នៅជាមួយវារឹបតែខែរឹបតែឆ្នាំមកទៅចេះតែយល់
Artisans are essentially creating the images, using knots. The different coloured plastics represent each colour in the final design. They spend up to a year just tying the threads. In the past, people in Cambodia used banana trunks to do this.
ចង់គិតហ្នឹងគឺព្រោះថាម៉េចព្រោះទំនៀមទម្លាប់ខ្មែរយើងធ្លាប់ពីដើមយើងអត់មានគេហៅ block printing ទេគឺមនុស្សត្រូវ design នៅក្នុងពេលយើងត្បាញមុនទៅជាត្បាញមុនហ្នឹង
They prepare the material for dyeing using natural and native ingredients such as tree bark, turmeric and insects' eggs.
និយាយទៅយើងមានពណ៌ច្រើនណាស់ដែលយើងអភិវឌ្ឍនៅក្នុងម្ដុំព្រៃឈើប្រឹក្សានៅជិតជុំយើងទៅ
Workers add them to the boiling water. They strain the mixture to create a smooth consistency. Then dip the knotted silk in the steaming batch. The plastic knots protect sections of the pattern from the dye. This variety of resist dyeing is called ikat, from the Indonesian word for bind or tie. When the dyed part is dry, workers cover it with new knots and cut the plastic wrapping from the next section.
តែកាត់សរសៃសូត្រហ្នឹងអារបស់ដែលយើងខំចងមួយឆ្នាំហ្នឹងវាខូចអស់វាអត់មានព្រោះវាមានតែខ្សែមួយតគ្នារហូតក្នុងពី300ខ្នាហ្នឹង
They'll repeat this process hundreds of times with different colours and threads. They move the threads to the spinning jenny and prepare them for the loom. Silk weaving in Cambodia dates back to the 7th century. It was on the maritime Silk Road between China and India. And diplomats across Asia would wear the textiles, marvelling at their quality. The craft survived hundreds of years, but it was almost completely lost when the communist Khmer Rouge regime seized control in the mid-1970s. In its drive for a peasant utopia, the regime targeted the elite and educated, which included silk artisans. Nearly a quarter of the population was killed in what became known as the Cambodian genocide. Khon was only a child during the regime, but she remembers her family's struggle.
ម្ដាយរបស់ខ្ញុំកើតបានស្លាប់ចោលខ្ញុំអាយុ10ឆ្នាំ ម្ដាយរបស់ខ្ញុំកើតបានស្លាប់ចោលខ្ញុំរស់ចំណើមជាមួយពុកខ្ញុំគាត់ក្រអត់មានអុយហូបពេលដែលខ្ញុំបានមកទីនេះទើបខ្ញុំបានអុយហូប
She says working here has changed her life. Today, every time she sets up a loom and weaves a new piece, she feels proud.
ពិតជាអោយតម្លៃនៅក្នុងកន្លែងនេះដែលបានជួយស្ទួយ
PH says the loom she's using is similar to the ones used in the 12th century. Setting it up takes 1 month. She adjusts the shuttle regularly to make sure it aligns with the dyed ikat pattern. She adds the threads to small spindles and moves the shuttle from one side of the loom to the other to create the design.
គេហៅតកដើម្បីពេលយើងត្បាញយើងរើសមកខ្សែអញ្ចឹងយើងមានប្រមាណនេះទៅយើងលើកមកសហ្នឹងបោះមកខ្សែអញ្ចឹងអាចោតបាប់ហ្នឹងតើយើងបោះមកខ្សែបែរវាចេញជាកាឡាហ្នឹង
But PH sees it as a commitment to her history and culture. 2 decades ago, she poured everything she had into starting her company, Golden Silk PH.
ជីវិតខ្ញុំជាកូនខ្មែរខ្ញុំសប្បាយចិត្តជាកើតមកជាកូនខ្មែរដើម្បីជួយស្អីដែលខ្ញុំអាចជួយបានហើយនឹងជួយស្រុកខ្ញុំជួយកូនខ្មែរគឺ
There are around 5 other silk farms across Cambodia that follow these traditional techniques. PH sells these silk products in her boutique to museums and art collectors. Because it takes years to make each piece, they often sell for tens of thousands of dollars.
ដើម្បីតែពេលមនុស្សគេពាក់មើលទៅវាវាយគេហៅថាវាពណ៌នោះវាចេញមកជ្រឹងផ្លិតព្រោះចេញមកពណ៌ទាំងអស់វាចេញមកចូលគ្នាទាំងអស់រួមទៅក្នុងពេលភ្លើងច្បាញ់នៅលើគេអញ្ចឹងគេពាក់ដូចគេពាក់ព្រៀបថាគេពាក់ពេជ្រមួយនៅក្នុងខ្លួនគេចា
Today, she employs 42 people who make clothing, shawls, and tapestries. She says it's her way of strengthening the dignity and pride of Cambodian people.
ស្អីដែលគេការដែលគេធ្វើដើម្បីបង្ហាញនៅក្នុងទៅពិភពលោកថាគេជំនាន់ថ្មីអាចធ្វើអីបន្តិចតួចអាចតពីគេហៅថាកម្មភាពដែលស្ដេចយើងបានធ្វើដល់ប៉ុណ្ណឹងប៉ុន្តែយើងចង់ជួយមិនដែលឲ្យបានទៅអនាគតហើយគឺ
It will take 1,000 sheets of pure gold to cover this mask of the mythical demon king Ravana. He is a main character in Thai Khon, a traditional dance that depicts a battle between good and evil. For 600 years, artisans have dedicated their lives to making these masks. But the popularity of the dance has been dying out since the 1950s.
เขาไม่มีการแสดงหัวโขนก็จะเกิดขึ้นไม่ได้
Today, Pradeep Rodboy is helping to keep the art alive. We went to Ang Thong, Thailand to see how the tradition of making these masks is still standing. paper makes up the base of every Khon mask.
เขาจะชอบกระดาษถุงน้ำตาลเพราะกระดาษเนี่ยไม่อมเหงื่อ
And this clay mold will give it shape. Each mask requires a different kind, and Pradeep has made dozens over the years. He covers it with petroleum jelly so the paper doesn't stick to it. It takes him 2 hours to build 10 layers of paper. There are 4 main characters in Khon: heroes, heroines, monkeys, and demons. They depict characters from the battle between Rama and Ravana, 2 kings who represent good and evil. Monkeys make up Rama's army of warriors fighting to save the heroine from Ravana. Today, Pradeep is making the mask of the Demon King for a performance. He shapes the face with strips of white cement he's prepared.
แต่ด้านนี้เป็นแบบไม่ได้ต้องถือด้านนี้จะสำคัญจะเมื่อยจะปวดก็ตรงนี้หัวไหล่กับข้อแขน
It's a discomfort Pradeep has become used to. He learned mask making from his uncle when he was 14 years old.
ก็เพราะตระกูลผมเนี่ยจะเป็นพวกศิลปินทั้งหมดทุกครอบครัวจะเป็นพวกศิลปินพวกโขนละครลิเกอะไรพวกเนี้ย
To this day, many of his family members still perform Khon with the masks he creates. Pradeep shapes the decorative details of the crown one by one using a stencil.
เพื่อให้เป็นชั้นแบบนู้นจะได้วางตัวจังเพื่อให้เป็นชั้นแบบนั้น
This pattern is common in Thai architecture, often seen at Buddhist temples and monasteries. There are over 300 variations of Khon masks, and Pradeep has memorized them all.
ใช้แบบสมัยโบราณที่โดยการใช้สายตาวัดเอามันย่อมมีเอียงแล้วก็ไม่เท่ากันแต่มันก็จะมีเสน่ห์ของในตัวเอง
Then it's time to cover the crown in gold. Other mask makers use paint, but he only uses pure leaves of 0.03 carats each.
ชื่อเสียงของประเทศชาติด้วยจะมาใช้ของช่วยมันไม่ได้
This technique is called gilding. Gold for a mask this size can cost 10,000 Thai baht or $260. Pradeep is careful to not waste.
ถ้าปิดทองร้อนนี่ไม่ห้ามปลิวห้ามกระเด็นห้ามทุกอย่างเลยทองแพงมากตัวนั้น
The brush helps him get to the narrow corners. It takes him up to 3 hours to gild one mask.
คือหน้าที่ปิดทองเนี่ยเป็นหน้าที่ของภรรยาเป็นคนส่วนมากเป็นคนทำถ้าตอนนี้ภรรยาเสียไปแล้วก็แต่ต้องทุกอย่างต้องทำคนเดียวหมด
Today, he works alone in his small workshop. Pradeep uses plank wood to make the outer details like the ears. Then it's time to paint. The colors must be vibrant so audiences can see even the smallest detail clearly on stage. Ravana's skin is usually green or dark blue, and he has fierce facial features. In the past, mask makers made paint from extracts of flowers and tree barks. But now, most opt for waterproof acrylic paint to save time.
สีไทยไม่ดีอันนี้สีของบางทีก็ใช้ของอเมริกาบางทีก็ใช้ของญี่ปุ่น
Jewels like these can be used to signify the power a Khon character holds.
อันนี้ยากไปเสียเวลา
He assembles Ravana's 3-tier crown. The 2 heads represent his 10 heads and connection to the Hindu god Brahma. Finally, the mask is ready for performance. Khon originally was only performed during royal ceremonies in the Ayutthaya period, from the 14th to the 18th century. The craft nearly disappeared when film and television became a more popular form of entertainment in the 1950s. It regained some popularity in the 1990s when the Thai queen Sirikit promoted it. But it never made a full comeback. Nowadays, performing art schools teach the dance across the country. Khon combines multiple art traditions in Thailand, including sword fighting and shadow puppetry. It pulls inspiration from Buddhism and the Hindu story of Ramayana. Students start as young as 8 years old and must endure years of training in classical dance, martial arts, and acting.
มันค่อนข้างที่จะหายใจลำบากค่ะแล้วก็ลูกตาจะไม่ค่อยชัดด้วยแบบว่าความที่ชุดมันแน่นก็อาจจะขยับแขนขยับขายากนิดนึง
Maniprabha Khon Art has dedicated most of her life to Khon. But there was a time she wouldn't be allowed to do this at all. Up until the 18th century, only men could perform, even in the female roles. Maniprabha has learned from her grandfather, who is a master. Her group mainly dances at school events, cultural festivals, and funerals.
ความฝันตอนนี้คืออยากจะเป็นครูสอนรำสอนโขนค่ะอยากจะจบบัณฑิตนาฏศิลป์ที่เรียนอยู่แล้วก็เป็นครูสอนรำแบบเต็มตัวเพื่อสืบสานวัฒนธรรม
Pradeep believes the only way to save his craft is to preserve the tradition. But the past few years have been tough since all live performances came to a halt during the pandemic. Pradeep didn't get new orders for months and was forced to move his workshop away from Bangkok to save money.
ก็ไม่เคยคิดว่าโรคติดต่อที่มีแล้วทำให้เกิดปัญหาเนี่ยไม่มีใครคิดถึงเรื่องนี้ด้วย
But he managed to stay afloat. Nowadays, he sells about 2 or 3 masks a month, mainly to tourists. But he still worries his craft may not survive another crisis like the pandemic. That's why passing it on to the next generation is so important to him. He's trained dozens of people over 40 years.
อาชีพนี้ยังมีพวกที่เขาเรียนสูงกว่าเรายังต้องมาปรึกษาเราเนี่ยมันก็เขาให้เกียรติเราเขาเชื่อเราว่าเราออกแบบได้แล้วตีความหมายได้
And he hopes his masks will continue to tell the story of Thailand's rich culture.
ภูมิใจเพราะที่เรารักษาอาชีพนี้ที่เป็นอาชีพที่เก่าแก่ตั้งแต่รัชกาลที่1ปลายอยุธยาด้วย
This is an ancient cooking tool called a metate. Women in Mexico have been using it for over 7,000 years to prepare traditional dishes. Evangelina Aquino Luis spends hours grinding chilies and herbs for just one batch of mole. Mole is a thick, rich sauce that comes in many variations, contains dozens of ingredients, and can take days to cook. It's also one of the most popular dishes in Evangelina's restaurant, La Cocina Nana Vira. Today, she's preparing a rare kind of mole called chichilo. But it's not on the menu because she only makes it for people who are in mourning.
No me gustaba hacer chichilo porque enterré a seres queridos. Sí da tristeza hacerlo.
Evangelina has dedicated her life to preserving these kinds of traditions and methods. But over the years, she's watched cooks swap metates for blenders and even turned to packaged sauces from the supermarket. We visited Oaxaca, known as the land of the 7 moles, to see how the ancient ways of preparing this classic Mexican dish are still standing. Evangelina buys all ingredients fresh at a local market.
Berito, buenos días. ¿Tienes chile ancho negro?
Ancho chilies are a kind of dried poblano pepper that have a smoky flavor.
Quiero medio de chile ancho, quiero un cuarto de orégano, una bolsita de orégano. Dale, gracias. Hasta luego.
Back at her restaurant, Evangelina preps the onions, garlic, and sesame for roasting. She's part of the Zapotec indigenous group that's lived in the Oaxaca Valley for thousands of years. When someone dies, family usually prepare chichilo together. Evangelina made this batch especially for us, to be able to show the whole process. She puts the meat to boil in a handmade pot because the beef will take the longest to cook. In the state of Oaxaca, there are 7 types of mole, and every family has their own variation on the recipes.
Decía mi abuela que las semillas esponjaban el estómago. Por eso es que ella nunca las usaba.
Evangelina chars the ingredients on a clay comal, a smooth griddle to bring out the smoky flavors. The ancho chilies go first on high heat.
La importancia de no quemar los ingredientes, sino de irlos asando. Eso es lo que nos va a dar que nuestro chichilo salga cremoso y que no raspe.
When they get the perfect roast, she soaks them for about 30 minutes to rehydrate and soften them. Evangelina wastes no time. She roasts everything quickly, since this mole has to be made faster than other kinds to make it in time for a wake. The metate has been in Evangelina's family for 46 years. These grinding stones are carved whole out of a quarry, and they can weigh more than 50 kilos.
Pero pues moverlo es más práctica, ¿no? Hay que buscarle la forma para hacer caminar un metate.
Some commercial chefs have switched to blenders to make the process faster. But Evangelina says that hand crushing the ingredients makes the paste smoother and helps bring out intense flavors from the spices.
Nuestro compromiso como cocineras tradicionales es rescatar todos estos elementos que hacen de la cocina tradicional esa importancia que tiene, ¿no?
This is the most physically taxing step, and it can take 2 hours just to grind the ingredients.
Pues, ¿qué siento? Satisfacción, cansancio, pero un cansancio rico. Así es, ¿no? ¿Los brazos? Los brazos sí se cansan, sí, le digo, es práctica, es mucha práctica, pero sí. ¿Y las rodillas? Las rodillas también.
Indigenous groups in Mesoamerica have used the metate to make mole since the pre-Hispanic time. It's believed to have originated either here in Oaxaca or just to the north, in what's now known as the state of Puebla. The Spanish arrived in the 15th century, and people started mixing indigenous ingredients like the native chilies with other foods the Spanish brought. So today's mole is a fusion of pre-Hispanic and European cuisines. But the authentic way of making it has dwindled in popularity. Pre-made mole paste came on the market in the 1940s. Blenders became popular in the decades that followed, and they eventually replaced the metate altogether.
El metate que acabo de utilizar es el metate que le dio su madrina a mi mamá cuando se casó. Entonces era como un regalar ahora una licuadora, ¿no?
But Evangelina says traditional mole still beats out the kind made in a blender.
Se pierde precisamente conforme va avanzando la modernidad. Se pierde conforme va avanzando el consumismo, porque ahora ya el mole ya no se prepara nada más para la familia.
Lard is one of the final ingredients she adds. She melts it into a pot and adds the ground paste to fry. Then beef broth and corn dough to make the mole thicker. She stirs until the sauce is the perfect consistency. Fiesta moles that are served at celebrations, like one called coloradito, have brighter and sweeter, and some even say happier tastes. But this is a funeral mole, so it has a more subdued and muted taste. Evangelina's grandmother taught her how to cook mole when she was just 7 years old. At 20, she learned how to make chichilo mole from the women in her community.
Cuando llegamos al duelo, a dar un pésame a un hogar donde fallece alguien, entre todas nos congregamos para desvenar los chiles, para asar los chiles. Es un platillo es un mole de hermandad, de solidaridad, de compañerismo.
At first, making chichilo mole was a heavy task for Evangelina, because it reminded her of loss. But when she realized she had a chance to preserve and share her culinary knowledge, it took on a new meaning.
Ya no es ahora por una, como decimos, por amor a la familia, sino ahora es por amor a la comunidad. Siento que es importante mencionar que la cocina tradicional es el alma de nuestro país y la cocina tradicional es el alma de Oaxaca.
In 2017, she registered the brand Nana Vida, named after her grandmother. She exports her mole as well as chocolate to the US and sells them online. And Evangelina's work is getting noticed. This year, her chichilo mole won the award for the best ceremonial dish and another for best decoration at a traditional food festival in Oaxaca. Her restaurant is open for tourist groups and locals who want to eat the traditional food.
A metate sí le da otro sabor, sí le da otra textura. Lo que han hecho ellas, por ejemplo Eva, la cocinera tradicional, pues es importante porque lo va a pasar a sus hijos.
¿Vas a poner solo un poco?
She hopes her children will fall in love with cooking the same way she has. And if they do, they have her recipe. And of course, her metate.
No lo sé todo, pero lo poco que sé y lo que estoy aprendiendo, pues la intención es difundir. Entonces, eso es lo que queremos hacer. La cocina tradicional yo creo que es esto, es arte, es amor. Desde ahí es la cocina tradicional.
This dried out pumpkin shell will be sanded, cut, decorated, and transformed into one of the most important instruments in classical Indian music. It's called a Tanpura. And for hundreds of years, craftspeople like Farooq Abdul Majid sitar maker have hand-carved them out of gourds instead of wood.
जब ये 4 तार जैसे बनेंगे तो पूरा विश्व का भंडार वो तानपुरे के उसमें से निकलता है.
His family has been making musical instruments like tanpuras and sitars for 7 generations in his hometown of Meerut. This city of over 500,000 people in Western India is known as a hub for classical musicians and as the birthplace of this craft.
अब तानपुरा या सितार बनना म्यूजिक इंस्ट्रूमेंट मीरज में बनना बंद होगा तो मीरज को कोई पहचानने वाला नहीं होगा.
It takes at least 3 weeks to make just one, and they cost almost 3 times as much as the smaller electronic versions. We went to Meerut to find out how the art of turning pumpkin shells into instruments is still standing.
यहाँ पे अभी जो तुम्बा है उसको निकालेंगे.
Imtiaz Abdul Majid sitar maker says the secret to a Meerut Tanpura is the shell of a bottle gourd. This variety is grown specially to make instruments and must be hung to dry and harden for a year. He soaks it in water for up to 2 days and scrapes it clean inside and out.
भिगोने के बाद कैसा ये जो अभी जो हार्ड है इसमें तो एकदम जैसा रबर जैसा रहता है. भिगोने के बाद उस तरह से होता है वो.
Imtiaz started this job when he was just 13 years old. Now, at 44, he works alongside 7 family members, hand-making tanpuras and sitars. He cuts the shell about a quarter of the way in and scrapes out any debris left over. This will become the tumba, the body of the tanpura. Wood will make up other parts of the instrument, like the soundboard and the neck. Ensuring its good quality is crucial. They season it for 3 years to strengthen it. They take their time crafting the wood, sawing, carving, and filing it down.
फिर रहता है और ये पूरा हाथ पे है. मशीन से तो ये काम नहीं बनता कोई.
Shaping the pieces alone can take up to 12 days. But after 31 years, woodwork has become Imtiaz's specialty. He prepares the top of the tumba for the neck joint, known as the gullu. It connects the tumba to the rest of the instrument and must be fitted perfectly to ensure the best sound. He uses bamboo nails that he makes himself. He says they merge well with the tumba and give a more finished look. These sticks of wood preserve the tumba's shape as it dries for 2 to 3 days depending on how sunny it is.
जैसे कि तबली जिस तरह से चाहिए उस तरह से इसको फिटिंग करना है.
To make the tabli or the soundboard, Imtiaz traces the shape of the hollow tumba onto a piece of wood and cuts it out. He spends a day carving and shaping the tabli.
लेकिन जो भी है हमारे नज़र पे काम चलता है. नज़र पे जो भी होगा काम परफेक्ट बनना चाहिए ना.
It takes at least a day to make the neck of the Tanpura, known as the dand. Imtiaz uses a block plane to hollow out a 40-inch piece of wood. He assembles the Tanpura and glues the pieces with wood adhesive and taps to check the sound.
अभी ये आवाज़ है. यहाँ पे ब्रिज आएगा. यहाँ से आवाज़ आएगी. यहाँ से आवाज़ आएगी. इसमें भी आवाज़ परफेक्ट आना चाहिए. यहाँ भी आना चाहिए.
Then Imtiaz hands it over to his uncle Farooq.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम.
क्या इम्तियाज़ क्या चले?
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
He's been designing the family's instruments for over 40 years. And it's a group effort. 8 of his relatives work together to preserve the legacy.
वो उस तरह पहले रफ करेंगे, फिर वो जैसे आँखियों को चुभेगा, अच्छा दिखेगा, तो फिर ठीक है. ऐसे फिर हमारे जो बड़े भाई हैं उनसे बातचीत करके, भाई ऐसे ऐसा ये पैटर्न अपने को यहाँ पर करना है, तो ये अच्छा दिखेगा क्या नहीं दिखेगा, तो बोलेगा अच्छा दिखता है बनाएंगे, तो वो भी सजेशन उनसे ले लेते हैं.
They spend hours carving peacocks, flowers and vines out of wood and strips of white plastic.
देखो अभी इस काम में थोड़ा क्या है, हाथ काम करने की वजह से हाथ एकदम सख्त हो जाते हैं, मुलायम नहीं रहते हैं, क्योंकि छन्निया और हथौड़ा का थोड़ा हेवी होने की वजह से हर अंग यानी जो हाथ का जो एरिया होता है वो सब सख्त हो जाता है.
In the past, they used ivory, but the Indian government banned the use of it in the late 80s. Farooq mixes coal dust with wood glue to make the black coloring. Polishing brings it all together, but it comes at a price.
कुछ लोगों का साइड इफेक्ट होता है. ये साइड इफेक्ट होने से उनके जो हाथ होते हैं थोड़े गल जाते हैं, यानी जख्मा वगैरह होते हैं.
He adds a natural resin called gum copal as a final layer and scrapes off any excess polish. It can take up to 3 weeks to make one Tanpura. And the family's techniques haven't changed in almost 200 years. If anyone asks Farooq what he does, all he has to say is his last name. The name sitar maker is used by the instrument-making descendants of the man credited for introducing the pumpkin Tanpura. Some say the idea to use pumpkins as instruments came to Farid Sahib sitar maker in 1850, after seeing Hindu monks use the shells to store water. Some say it came from seeing African ships use them to transport jars of honey. While other parts of India made the Tanpura with jackwood, Farid found the pumpkin gave it a stronger vibration and better sound. The instrument became a staple for classical singers throughout India in the late 19th century. And its popularity put Miraj on the map as home to the best handcrafted instruments. But when electronic Tanpuras hit the market in 1979, demand for the handmade ones dwindled. The family now sells only half of what they used to 25 years ago.
आज के लोकेशन में, आज के पीरियड में हम साल में 100 से 125 सितारे या तानपुरे बना लेते हैं.
Every piece of Farouk's is made with precision.
तो हमारा सिर्फ एक उद्देश्य है, मकसद है कि अच्छे साज बने और इसकी फैला यानी रोशनी हो जाए.
He drills 4 holes to the top of the dand. This is where the pegs will go.
इससे मार्किंग में जब गलती हो जाती है तो इससे तार टूटने का संभव होता है.
The strings are made of Japanese steel that he buys from a market in Mumbai. He threads them through these small beads called manka. They're used to fine-tune the instrument.
जब तानपुरा पूरा तैयार हो जाता है, जब उसको तार और खूंटियाँ बैठती हैं, तब जब ब्रिज रखने का उस पर जो परेड आता है, तब हमें मन में शांति करेंगे कि तानपुरा जड़ से अच्छा बोले.
The bridge made of camel bone supports the strings. These cotton threads called javari help enrich the sound. It takes artisans years to master tuning a tanpura. Simple factors like room temperature and humidity can affect the sound. So craftsmen must have a trained ear. Farouk sits for 3 hours, tightening and loosening the strings until they sound flawless.
जब ऐसे लगता है कि चलो अभी ये अपने लिए परफेक्ट हुआ, पूरा परिपक्व हुआ है, अब हमें इसे अपने ग्राहक के हाथ में देना चाहिए, हम मुनासिब समझेंगे.
The sitar maker's reputation for high-quality handmade instruments has helped them stay afloat. It's why singers like Subhadra Desai still use the tanpuras made by them.
आप किसी भी आर्टिस्ट को पूछ लीजिए, गायक को, वो मेरठ से ही तानपुरा मंगवाते हैं. एक परंपरा बनी हुई है कि वो उस तरह से ही बनाएंगे तानपुरे.
She has been practicing Hindustani classical music for over 4 decades. When she was just 13 years old, she got her first tanpura, which was made by Farouk's family.
तानपुरे क्या होते हैं कि ये ना अपने बच्चे जैसे होते हैं. उसके लिए जितना प्यार होता है ना बच्चे के लिए, तानपुरे के लिए गायक को उतना प्यार होता है.
The industry is facing competition from electronic tanpuras and phone apps. But Subhadra says that while digital options may be practical, they do not match the authentic tones of the original.
वो कान में जब तक देखो तानपुरे को, जब हम तार को ऐसे बजा रहे हैं तो ये तार हिल रहा है, तो उसका जो वाइब्रेशन जब तक आ रहा है, वो वाइब्रेशन आपको अपने गले से जो आप स्वर निकाल रहे हैं उसके साथ मर्ज करने में वो मददगार होता है. वो यहाँ पे सीधे आ रहा है, इसको इधर तो नहीं रख सकते.
She performs throughout India and teaches music at universities. Many of her students still use tanpuras made in Meerut. A fully decorated tanpura can cost up to 33,000 rupees or around $400.
डेकोरेशन सिर्फ जो हमारे जो ग्राहक हैं, कस्टमर हैं, उनको जो है सिंपल डेकोरेटेड का डिज़ाइन ज़्यादा लगता है, क्योंकि ये मामला जो है पैसों का मामला है.
They make about 6 to 8 tanpuras a month and split the profits among themselves.
और एक काम में मेहनत ज़्यादा होने की वजह से मुनाफा कम है.
They worry that apathy and modern alternatives may render the family business obsolete. But their deep love for music has helped them carry on the family's legacy.
हमारे भगवान से अब ऐसी प्रार्थना है कि ये कारोबार फूले और फले, ताकि संगीत का विश्व में भंडार हो.
Salt from Bali's beaches is some of the rarest in the world. It's also some of the most natural. but harvesting it takes patience and a huge amount of strength. Tanpura is 45 years old, and she's one of the last salt farmers here in the seaside village of Kusamba. She spends her days carrying baskets full of seawater and pouring them on the volcanic sand to filter out the salt. But salt farmers make so little that most have left the business for better paying jobs at nearby hotels and tourist spots.
Anak demen kayak gini malih, lagi jadi makin dah nguyah kebus kan.
We traveled to Kusamba in Bali to see how this salt farming tradition is still standing. Tourists visit Kusamba and nearby regions for their famous volcanic sands. But for Nunga's family, they've been an essential source of income for at least 4 generations. She starts her day at 6 in the morning, leveling sand for about an hour. It's no easy task, even for Nunga, who's been doing this since she was just 15 years old. She and her husband make up to 40 round trips every day to collect water from the ocean. The baskets of seawater can weigh 66 pounds.
Kan teh namun di kedano makin ke swil menek tak kajen ke melompat tuh kerugan baik ke tekan ke.
Even on a calm day like today, it's hard to keep the balance against a swelling tide. So she tries to collect water from smaller waves. After 30 years, she can go back and forth for hours without a break, even as temperatures reach as high as 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The manual labor drove some farmers to replace the buckets for machines that can pump that much water in just minutes. But Nunga hasn't installed one yet.
Menabuh ke kalangan luwung ya sambani gitu terkenal.
This fine volcanic sand sets Kusamba farm salt apart from other kinds, like that from salt ponds or rock deposits. It absorbs the water fast, like a natural sieve, leaving sun-baked salt flakes on the surface. Nunga is careful to spread the water evenly, because the salt won't crystallize if there's too much water in one area. On a sunny day like today, the water will dry by the afternoon, and she collects it immediately. Most of the tools they use are made from local resources, like this wooden rake. But it's an industry dependent on the fickle weather. Farmers can spend weeks without income during the rainy season between October and April.
Aman hujan ni ke tandai magai ke wah ni ke tanda dijakan.
And erosion is slowly swallowing up this beach.
Makru ka cepot langsung ajana kan. Di palungan tetegah kini ke pot kentan ke bah ke kejang cecek. Ulung bayi bana.
Kusamba's beach coastline shrank 32.74 meters in just 7 years. That's nearly 5 meters a year, the second worst rate in this region of Bali. It's forced many farmers to rely on man-made sea defenses.
Nyindirin pangtan ngelompat, ye pasti meriki gitu. Angon tanggul gitu.
All this risk and uncertainty is why Nunga's husband has taken a second job in construction, and why the couple doesn't want their 2 children following them into the salt fields.
Anak dia ni ke kalian tan gai, nanti pasti dalam jam nanti pasti. Kadang-kadang yang tujuan tu.
Still, Nunga says she enjoys it, and she works hard to maintain the business she inherited from her ancestors.
Demen gai nguyah, sing ada gai len bin ni duen demeni.
Nunga filters the salt in her hut. She uses seawater to flush all of the salt from the sand, and runs it through a filtration system 3 times until the salt is pure. She pours the concentrated salt water into these troughs. They're called balung, and they're what gives the salt its name. Traditional ones are made from coconut tree trunks. But Nunga also uses these synthetic sheets that help the water dry faster. This is the only part of the process that she's modernized. More and more, farmers have been switching to these because they're cheaper and don't leak. But farmers like I Wayan Rena think it's important to stick to this traditional palung.
Harus kembali ke palung. Nah, itulah yang disebut organik. Itulah yang disebut alami, alat jemurnya.
Balung like these can last up to 30 years. This kind of solar evaporation is one of the oldest and most traditional techniques of harvesting salt. In about 1 or 2 days, the water will be gone, leaving behind pyramid-shaped crystals. The natural sea salt is said to be higher in nutritional value than the average table salt, which is often heavily refined. Farmers describe the flavor as subtle and not overwhelmingly salty. And this is the only salt Nenga grew up eating. While Indonesia has one of the longest coastlines in the world, bad weather and coastal changes have affected salt production. Kusamba farmers typically produce between 300 and 600 kilograms of salt a month. But Indonesia imports about 2 million tons of cheaper salt every year, meaning the farmers have stiff competition. Farmers sell 1 kilo of balung dried salt for about $2. That's more than 3 times the price of mass-produced salt sold in most grocery stores, making it a luxury item for the majority of people. That leaves farmers with unsold stock. Wayan leads a network for local salt farmers, and he helps artisans like Nenga sell their salt. Salt farmers have been turning to tourists who are willing to pay for more than just the salt itself.
Yang tamu dia cari apanya yang cari? Kan tradisinya. Bukan garamnya yang dia beli mahal. Karena cara pembuatannya masih tradisi.
The decline of tourism during the pandemic was a major setback for them. And without the promise of a consistent livable wage, this generation of farmers could be the last to continue this trade.
Bapak berusaha untuk membangkitkan anak-anak muda. Mulai sekarang mudah-mudahan lah. Kenapa? Karena Bapak ingin melestarikan warisan.
Kusamba salt farmers received a geographical indication certificate from the Indonesian government in early 2022. It recognizes that a product comes from a particular place and has a unique reputation because of that. Farmers hope the international prestige of the certificate will boost export sales.
Nah, Bapak yakin untuk ke depan pasti akan cerah.
Banten katikuangan uyah sambil perusahaan dan bang ada nak nyusukin. Kada cak kapang mau nak nyakap, mau nak depang lagi. Tadi dak.
This golden fiber is considered one of India's most important crops. It's called jute, and it's often used to make sacks for coffee, sugar, and grain. Women from the Rajbanshi ethnic group have been weaving it into floor and prayer mats for generations. Sanjita Sarkar learned the craft of dhokra weaving when she was 12.
না যদি এই যে ধোকরা বিছনা যদি না রাখি নাকি না তো বলবে এরা কি করি কাজ করে না এরা রাজবংশী নয় এরকম করে অনেকে বলে হ্যাঁ এটা রাজবংশীর পরিচয়.
But cheaper alternatives have flooded the market in recent decades, forcing many weaving families out of business. We visited the village of Mohishbatan to see how, despite the challenges, this ancient craft is still standing. 80% of India's jute grows on the warm and humid lands of West Bengal. Farmers cut the stalks once a year during the rainy season in July. They tie the jute to the wet ground to soak. After 3 weeks, the bark becomes soft and the plant turns from green to brown. They strip the plant to expose the loose jute fibers and rinse it in water. It dries in the sun for up to 3 days before it's sold to artisans like Sanjita.
বাজারে তো অনেক ধরনের পাট পাওয়া যায় কম দামের বেশি দামের কিন্তু আমাদের বেশি দামেরটাই লাগে বেশি.
Women in her family have practiced the craft for at least 4 generations.
এটা কেউ বলতে পারছে না যে আমি ওর কাছ থেকে শিখেছি কিংবা আমার শাশুড়ি শেখা ছিল তার শাশুড়িও ছিল এরকম করে পরম্পরায় চলে আসছে.
Sanjita pulls the loose fibers and separates them. She avoids the dark fibers and instead buys jute that is shiny golden brown.
কিন্তু সব ধরনের জুট নিলে হবে না, কারণ দেখতে হবে কোনটা জুট সবথেকে শৌখিন।
The water smooths and prepares the fibers for rolling. She rolls it across this old piece of tire on her leg to prepare for the next step. This technique is called pine, and it helps to keep the threads the same thickness. Otherwise, the mat may become uneven. Threads wrap around this homemade spindle called the takur. She can sit for hours hand-rolling the jute. While some weavers buy pre-rolled jute from the market, Sanjita prefers to do it herself. She wraps the thread around her legs to form the roll called lachi and prepares them for dyeing. Sanjita works with her sisters-in-law to prepare the threads.
মানে একসাথে যদি 3-4 জন রং করি ওটাই সুবিধা হয় বেশি।
Weaving has been a task reserved for women in the Rajbanshi tribe. The community comprises 3 million people across India, and they make a living mainly from farming. But for centuries, Rajbanshi women were not allowed to work outside the home. So making and selling mats was the only way for them to make money. Nowadays, many split their time between farming, household chores, and weaving. So it's not always easy to juggle it all. They meet to bleach and color their threads once a month to save time. The best dye comes from a native fruit, but it's been hard to find.
পাওয়া যায় না, গাছ কেটে দেয়, গাছ কেটে দিলে তার পাওয়া যাবে না।
So they buy the colors from a market in Kolkata. They hang the jute threads to dry for one day. People in India have used jute to weave mats since 3000 BC. Demand for the crops took off in the mid-19th century when companies worldwide began using jute sacks to package products like coffee, sugar, and grain. This provided jobs for millions of people in rural areas of West Bengal. But when power looms entered the market in the late 19th century, the need for skilled hand weavers decreased. Today, less than 20% of India's textiles are hand-woven. And from 1995 to 2010, the handloom industry lost 2.2 million artisans.
আমাদের মেশিন কোনো নাই, এটাই আমাদের মেশিন।
Dhokra mats are an essential part of the Rajbanshi daily life. People use them for sitting, praying, and sleeping.
আগে তো এরকম বিছানা ছিল না, কেউ আবার শুয়ে থাকাও ব্যবহার করে।
Products made from cheaper materials are now bringing in competition.
প্লাস্টিকের ম্যাট যে চলে আসছে, মানে কেন খারাপ লাগে, এত খাটনি করলাম, রং করলাম, বা সুন্দর করে বানালাম জিনিসটা, আর যদি দাম দিয়ে ঠিকঠাক না বিক্রি করতে পারি তো খুব খারাপ লাগে।
Sanjita uses a traditional loom made of bamboo and wood she inherited from her mother-in-law who built it 60 years ago. Setting it up is an important step that takes precision and expertise.
একটু যদি ভুল হয়, একটা সুতা যদি ছাড়া যায়, সম্পূর্ণ ডিজাইনটা ভুলেই চলে যাবে, ওটা কোনো জায়গায় মিলতে পারবে না। যেরকম ধরো অঙ্কর যদি একটা সংখ্যা ভুল হয়, যদি গোটা অঙ্কটাই যদি ঠিক করে আনো, এক জায়গায় ভুল হয়ে গেল।
She spends hours looping and securing 2 to 3 rolls of jute through the loom. A simple pattern can take her a day and a half to weave. And it's a full body activity.
পায়ের থেকে জোর দিতে হচ্ছে, কোমরেও জোর দিতে হচ্ছে, হাতেও জোর দিতে হচ্ছে।
She gets support from a back strap, but years of weaving have taken a toll on her body.
কোমর ব্যথা হয়, খাটনি হলেও করতে হচ্ছে।
Sanjita sells her mats for 400 rupees, around $5. But plastic mats can cost less than half of what her jute ones cost. She makes about 60,000 rupees selling her mats at craft fairs across India. That's $730 a year. But traveling to them is expensive, and she can't afford to do it on her own. So non-profit groups help her sell her products.
এরকম করে বাংলা নাটকে যে প্রচার করেছে তা ফোন করে করে আসে কিংবা ফোন করে অর্ডার দেয় যে এটা জিনিস আমাদের পছন্দ আমাকে বানিয়ে দিতে পারবে বলে হ্যাঁ পারবো
Her family still mainly depends on her husband's income from farming. Sanjita uses her money from mat sales to pay for their 2 sons' education. She goes to workshops 3 to 4 times a year to learn ways to improve her mats and make other products like bags and jackets.
কিন্তু শুধু আগে তো হাতের মাপের কাজটা শিখতাম মায়ের কাছ থেকে শাশুড়ির কাছ থেকে তো এখন শুধু ট্রেনিংয়ে ছিলাম কি শিখছি শুধু ইঞ্চি কত বাই কত ফুট এটা শিখেছি
And with the skills she's learning, she mentors other women in her community. She hopes more people will see the beauty in the craft.
যে উন্নত করলেই কাজটা যদি আরো আমরা ফ্যাসিলিটি করতে পারি ভালো ফেসিং করতে পারি জিনিস ঠিকঠাক যদি আমরা তৈরি করে দেখাতে পারি তাহলে আমরা আরো এগিয়ে যাওয়ার সম্ভাবনা দেখছি
The secret to making some of the best bonsai scissors in the world lies in learning how to forge samurai swords.
日本刀の作り方と同じようなあれです。日本の感性が入って。
Hirakawa Yasuhiro is one of the only blacksmiths in Japan who still makes these scissors using methods that date back to the 5th century. Professional gardeners are willing to pay thousands and wait a whole year to get their hands on a pair.
この時のこの取れるにはこの音を取ってほしい。これがものすごく切れる音やね。
Yasuhiro's family workshop, Sasuke, has been around for 155 years, but he worries it may end with him.
こんな道具のっていうのに目を向けてくれる人が出てくるように、私もハサミを工具的なものよりも伝統美術品に。
We went to Sakai, Japan, to see how this bonsai scissor making craft is still standing. Yasuhiro's family business is one of the last in Sakai that specializes in bonsai scissors in addition to knives.
私はここの家で生まれて、もう自然とここでもう生まれてなったから自然となったみたいですね。
Like knives, these scissors start with a small piece of metal. Yasuhiro cuts it down to about 10 centimeters. He uses Japanese Yasugi steel because it's more durable and helps the blade stay sharp. He starts with a softer kind to make the handle and the base of the blade. He heats the metal in an old wood-burning furnace instead of a modern gas burner because he believes the heat is more concentrated that way. It takes about an hour for it to reach the perfect temperature.
赤くなったら柔らかくなるからこのハンマーで叩く。
Yasuhiro starts with a power hammer to stretch it. Then he switches to a manual one to perfect the round shape of the handle.
肉体的にっていうよりも叩いてたら気持ちがいいんでね。もう自分が一体になれるんですよ。もう自分の体のように土が動くんで。
To make the blade, he forges a hard piece of steel over the softer base he started with. This is called forge welding. It's one of the oldest and most essential skills in blacksmithing. Yasuhiro uses powdered borax and iron oxide to bind them and help prevent oxidation. He heats the metal once more and hammers it again to flatten it into the shape of a blade. These short taps at a low temperature make the particles finer and smaller, and the metal denser and stronger. Slowly, it'll start looking like scissors. Yasuhiro files the handle to make it slightly rough and uneven. This will help people keep a tight grip on them. He uses this mold to bend the handle into its signature butterfly shape.
だからこう見た目にも綺麗やし、やっぱり西洋とは違う。
He files a straight line onto the blade to complete the signature Sasuke look. The most crucial part is a technique called quenching. Yasuhiro heats the blade one last time at 780 degrees Celsius. He can tell it's the right temperature just by looking at the color of the fire. Then he immediately submerges it in water. The sudden change in temperature will harden the blade. He prefers to do it in the morning before the sun is up.
暗い方がよう見えるんでね。でこれで今こんな色なんですよ。で、これ硬くなる。こういう。
If done incorrectly, the metal can turn brittle. Today, he's the only person in his family who's mastered all of the steps, and he often works alone. He buffs the scissors to make them smooth. Yasuhiro says this can be exhausting.
でそのさっき言った調子を出したりするのがものすごい苦労します。で、それももうどうしたらうまく切れるやろう、誰が使っても切れるやろうっていうのに作ってね、もうそこで神経がかかる。
Both sides have to fit perfectly together.
こういう動きがペタッとこう二次元の動きやなしに横の動き。
Bonsai scissors have to be as sharp as a razor to make precise, clean cuts.
日本刀の時も習ってきて。
It can take him a month to make one pair, but it can last a lifetime. Yasuhiro also repairs scissors that are more than 100 years old.
これでもう完成です。うまくできました。調子もいいです。調子もいいし、形も悪いところないですね、今のところ。はい。
The city of Sakai has been famous for its metalwork since the 5th century. People from across the country would come here looking for knives, swords, and even guns. Yasuhiro himself comes from a long line of blacksmiths spanning 22 generations. But it was his great-great-grandfather, Sadajiro, who made scissors the focus of the family business in 1867. And when Yasuhiro took it over in the late 60s, he was determined to grow the business.
だから私は若い時のサスケ世界一にするっていうのを思ってたけども、やっぱり残すのにはどうしたらいいかっていうのは今まだ考えなあかんとこやと思います。
But it wasn't always easy to find new customers.
ほとんどがもうね、ハサミもほとんど全部もう機械になってしまいます。最初はなかなかね、定着はっていうのは難しかったような感じですね。だけどずんずん切れ味がいいっていうのが認められて。
Today, Yasuhiro is one of the few people in the country making such high-quality scissors. Bonsai specialist Yoshikawa Masakazu was willing to wait a year to get his hands on a pair.
どうでしょうかね。植物が一番よく分かってますね。いいハサミと悪いハサミ。悪いハサミを使って切ればやっぱりストレスがあるみたいなんで、この葉っぱのところがちょっと傷むっていうかね、ちょっと。
Without clean cuts, needles can turn brown and branches can wither. And sometimes bad blades can stop small buds from growing.
サスケさんのハサミを使ったらその芽が吹きやすいんです。
Using good scissors is also essential for Masakazu because bonsai are an important symbol in Japanese Zen Buddhism.
日本の人の心の穏やかさをいかに究極に求めていくかっていうのはこの盆栽に宿ってるかなと思いますね。
Yasuhiro says he's always learning from his customers.
今でもまだ材質的なことで植木屋さんがもうちょっと強力で強いものを作られへんかっていう提案もあるんで、だから材質もずっとやっぱり研究してるんで、同じハサミ作ったことないんですよ。
He's most proud of this $26,000 pear that took him 3 years to make and is decorated with gold. He dreams of making another similar one, coated with a wine red lacquer. But it would take him at least 4 years, and orders keep piling up.
その自分の思いのもの、私ももう71やからもうあと10年できるかどうかわからないでしょ。で、作るのがいっぱいあってもだいたい間に合わない。
People can order custom scissors online or visit his workshop in person. But there may not be another successor to the brand. Yasuhiro has 2 sons, but he isn't sure they'll follow in his footsteps.
今はちょっと手伝ってくれてます。できるんですよ。だけどお父さんとの仕事はやっぱり難しいって。だけど私はどうもどういう点かやってくれっていうのもあれやけどもちょっと自然に待ってますね。
Meanwhile, he carries the responsibility of crafting better scissors on his own.
毎回同じ次、夜寝て次は明日どういう仕事をするか、次作り方よりもこれがまた頭で考えつくんですね。ハサミ作ってる時はね、ほんまに楽しいっていうんか、楽しいってしゃあないんですよ。